All right, folks. So welcome. Today's topic, and what I'm going to talk about today is 10 ways to drive digital marketing in 2019. And what basically it is it says 2019 and 10 ways to drive digital marketing. But it's these some of the tactics that I'm going to discuss today is already people have already been doing it, but we see a lot of these things as being mainstream in this new year. So more and more people will be adopting it. A little bit about me. The best way to learn is just go to my website or go to my LinkedIn. But yeah, I've been a digital marketer slash online marketer, 18 plus years, worked in companies across both big, large, and small and medium-sized businesses. I work with enterprise as well as startups, later stage startup as well. And yeah, basically, I ran the whole marketing right from organic to lead gen to online e-commerce. I've been there from many years, working at it and keeping at it, and loving every moment of it. That you can also actually go to our Instagram, which is BT Digital Marketing. Twitter is by my name, and yeah, follow us on LinkedIn as well if you see this. So that's a little bit about me. But before I start, the first thing I want to do is I want to walk you through the digital marketing life cycle. So it's easy for before we dive into those big tactical stuff. It's easy if we know the whole marketing life cycle. So this is a classic B2B situation where in a the basic fundamentals is the digital infrastructure. Once we have the infrastructure in place, then you can work on the digital tactics, which would be your SEO, your paid advertising, your social media, your retargeting, your content marketing, your email workflows, whatever that case may be. And that essentially is your digital marketing tactics. Once you are running those tactics, what happens next is you are in a lead generation mode. And when you're in a lead gen mode, it's not just about generating leads, but it essentially what it is it's nurturing too, because lead is not something that you can generate right now and somebody is gonna end up buying tomorrow or day after. It will be great if that happens, but typically 99.9% that doesn't happen. So marketers, as marketers, we spend a lot of our time on nurturing those leads, and these days it's all about nurturing. And the reason for nurturing is before it goes to sales, you as marketers, you've nurtured them enough that they're ready to basically sign on the dotted lines and they know all about you. But this is a very critical piece of it. And once you have that lead and generation and nurturing, the another big one is aligning with your sales team. And sales and marketing alignment is very critical for any organization to succeed. If you have a lot of friction and stuff like that, then you end up doing things, spending time on things which really doesn't help the bottom line. So having an alignment, working together each week, sorry, with a touch point is just great. And couple of things that really brings the two teams together is the whole um, ABM, which is account-based marketing, where both teams have to be aligned, and sales processes. So yeah, these things are very critical. And what we see is before you do any of the tactical stuff, if your infrastructure is not in place, then you really cannot scale. And what I mean by infrastructure is things like automation, marketing automation platform. If you have one in place, your web analytics, your user experience things, what tools are you using, be it be it for web or mobile or whatnot. So that's a little bit about the digital marketing life cycle. And again, I can keep talking about it all day long, but the next really big thing is about the digital marketing pie, and I'm sure many of you have seen this many times over. And what essentially it means is, once you look at your big picture, which is what I showed in the earlier slide, which is your digital marketing life cycle, then you gotta drill down a little bit into the tactical side of things, and that's what we are doing right now. So when you talk about digital marketing, most of us like to divide it up into three big buckets, and those three buckets, essentially your earned media side of things, which is tactics like SEO, your social media. What it means is SEO is not something you can start optimizing and you will see results tomorrow. It's a long road. It could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year probably in many cases to get your SEO program up and going. If there are any shortcuts in those areas, then you're bound to see failures or some repercussions down the road. And I think a lot of growth marketers, when they look at SEO and they want to show you results, and not just growth marketers, agencies too, they go the shortcut route. In 3 months they get you links and things like that, but maybe next year Google changes their algorithm and the same company, the same site get penalized. So there are no shortcuts when it comes to earned media side of things. Same with social media. Social media is about growing your community, growing your followers, your viewers, your subscribers, and that takes time. But you have to put the right amount of strategies and processes in place, and of course, innovative tactics on how you're gonna grow your social community. But again, that takes time, and that's why earned is the hardest digital marketing thing, because it takes time, right? And anything that takes time, obviously, is good because it's for the long term. Paid side is paid advertising. You talk about your display, you talk about your paid search, you talk about any other kind of paid advertising or paid marketing. It's in a way it's great that you're spending money to buy traffic. Essentially, that's what it is. But it cannot be 100% of your tactics or even 80% of your tactics, because sooner or later it's gonna catch up with you. And it's also a way where people don't have the marketing chops. The first thing they do is they end up spending money because it's kind of easy, right? Because you have the platforms and they do it, and all you have to do is then manage one agency who's gonna manage it. And we've seen all those cases across the board, where people do it. So again, a paid should be 30%, maybe 35% of your overall acquisition portfolio. So think about customer acquisition, anything like your portfolio, and paid cannot be more than 30%, if that even if that. Owned is where the real long term assets is. Owned is what we call it, like the first things we do is how big is your email list, you know and how are you doing capturing those email lists, for example. And that is owned by you. When you have an email list or email something, you own it. Okay, it stays with you, and that's why it's called owned media. And it takes time, but that is your asset, that's your money in the bank. So again, I just wanted to give you an overview, because whatever you do going forward in 2019 or beyond is going to come out of these three buckets. So it doesn't matter, you can call it TV or whatever it is, but it's going to come out of these three buckets. This should be at the forefront of whatever you do. um, Again, I'm sure many of you have seen this beautiful charts by Forrester, and as the year goes by, then they're gonna readjust the numbers and things like that. But hey, at the current place, it's looking like 105, 110 billion digital marketing spend in 2019. It's a great number. What that means is our industry is growing. Back in the day, 10 years back, when actually Forrester started putting out these studies, we as digital marketing, we only had about 20-25% of the overall marketing spend. And now in 2018, what we see is about 45 to 50% of all marketing spend is in digital marketing. And that pie is going to grow, obviously, right? For obvious reasons. The world has changed in the last 10 years in terms of how people get information, consume, and things like that. Um, there are two takeaways in here. There are two takeaways on this slide, and there are two ways you can go about it. You can look at where everyone is spending money, so you should be spending money at that on that channel too. Or if you're one of those marketers, then you go against the grain of the market, and essentially you end up spending money on those tactics which is not listed here because everyone is doing it, right? So either follow it or you go against the grain. So it's your choice. So it's how you um, look at this chart. But there are some real outliers right here. The CAGR is the growth because like paid searches, you see only growing by 8%. Sure, because it has matured than when it was back in 2006, 2005, 2007. So you can see it maturity, but conversion wise, it's debatable because paid search still gets you better conversion than say display or any other units. The same with email marketing. People spend the email marketing spend, you might say, is so minuscule. So it's not big. This spend is around the sponsored list, the tools, the platforms, and things like that. That's why you see the spend less, and when people sponsor emails and newsletter or ad units inside this, so all of those things. So that's why it's lower in spend. But again, you should look at the overall ad spend, and yeah, we are digital marketing as an industry is doing, of course, great. So all right. So after now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start focusing on the 10 um, digital marketing tips or trends or whatever you call it in 2019 that I think it's going to become more mainstream. And of course, at the number one, which everyone loves to talk about, is artificial intelligence. And, AI in marketing has been around for a few years, but now we'll see a lot of mainstream adoption. We also see that AI has been successfully implemented in so many different like uh, industry, like for example sales. People are using AI to measure how the sales reps are calling, what are some of the mistakes they are making, where they can improve, which calls getting the highest closure rate or the next stage meetings, and which calls are not. And then AI driven platform is actually analyzing the call logs and all of that because it's a data world. So whenever you see in marketing there's a huge data play, AI is going to play a huge role in it. So think about your own marketing campaigns. Where do you have the largest set or the largest amount of data in your platforms or in your campaigns where AI can make the biggest bang? So paid search, of course, the platforms are getting smarter, and what I mean by that is not just the Google AdWords platform, but also the bid management tools and the platforms like Kenshu and many others who are using those bid management tools to basically optimize your paid search campaigns. Content personalization is another area we see a lot of gains being made, and more data, more visitors, more cookies. That means that those platforms will do a great job of customizing the content for that audience because now you have data. Same with social media. We can see that a lot of many different ways that you can actually analyze and throw things based on the data that you have created, like not just time of the day, but what all what kind of post is resonating with people, and so on and so forth. And which engagement, what are the metrics beyond this. Right now, if you see, so many of the tools are giving you a base level numbers, like, okay, you posted on Friday, you posted on Monday, and this was the clicks, this was the likes, comments, whatever it is, and then they give you a math, basically, which is engagement number. But I think the AI is, there are a few tools out there, is gonna go way deeper than that, and because it can crunch the data at scale, and that's why we think AI is gonna be very mainstream in 2019 and beyond. Um, Content marketing, personalization is great. I mean, we all know and we all realize that the it's all about quantity and not quality. So, sorry, I dropped something. It's not about the um, quantity these days, and what we really see is nothing can be more beneficial than actually creating personalized content pieces. The reason is, there are two trends we see. Number one is, when we work, for example, with companies, and what we try to tell them is who your marketing audience is, because different marketing audience, or the target audience, consumes content differently. The fact is, when we ask anybody, they all say we want to do a top down approach. So we want to target, what do you call it, the CEOs and the VPs and the C suite folks, and which is great. But decision making, when you're targeting people, doesn't happen at the top, but it happens across the chain. And what it means is, as marketers, especially in B2B marketing, you have to drive the researcher, the influencers, which are mostly at the managerial, coordinator, senior manager levels, and then the approval, meaning their bosses. Once they are researching on a specific project because the company has a challenge or a need, or the thing they do, then an approver, which is somebody at a director or VP level, is actually going to approve it, and then they're going to take it to their boss, and who could be your CMO or your CEO or COO, whatever that title is. And that is, so what that essentially means is, you have three different roles or three different personas. So you gotta create content which targets all three of them. So, for example, this webinar, right? So we are creating this webinar, and we know that a lot of CMOs or high senior VPs and whatnot, they won't be able to attend this live webinar. But what we do know is, a lot of influencers and researchers, and in sometimes the approvers, will be attending these kind of webinars and consuming the content through video, for obvious reasons. But what we also do is, we take this content, which is a webinar content, and we try to make it into an ebook, or some kind of a written, where people can just browse through it. So now that kind of content is great for somebody who's at a decision making level. So basically, personalizing the content pieces, the formats, but also the pieces, and that's going to be huge, like how you can cater to each and every one and talk to them directly. So again, the point is, quality and not quantity. And of course, we know a thing about content. So please go to my website, and we this book that I written, it's on content marketing. It's free to download. So please go ahead and download that book. It's free, and there's a lot of great stuff. It's co-authored by me, and there are 9 other industry experts who have written a chapter each. So yeah, lot to get out of it. All right, so the other thing is voice search, and we do see that these days, everything is about, what do you call it, voice search. You have Alexa on one side, you have Google Assistant on the other, you have Siri, and when you see all these three tools, the your personal assistant, if you will, you do see there is a huge trend going, and that trend is towards the voice automated world, where before we used to write stuff. After writing like letters and stuff, um, we came to a world where we were emailing. From emailing we went to text messages, and of course there was phone before that. And now what we are doing is we are controlling our devices, our life, our things around our house with a voice commands, and that's gonna be great. And I think the next evolution after that is our brains, where we'll be wiring our brains, and what is in our brain in terms of thought process will be communicated to other devices. Yeah, it sounds scary, but that's what it's going to be, because that's the evolution we are in. uh, and right now, what we do see is we see a lot of different devices, and the home, of course, is the focal point of it, because you see Nest and all of those things. But we also see that all of this plays a huge role in our world, in the marketing world. And we definitely, Comscore just made this, I think, in one of the studies, they said 50% of all searches will be voice searches by 2020. So many of you use this daily in your day-to-day life. So whenever you ask in Google or your Siri or your Alexa, whatever, what they're doing is they're coming up with stuff, and they're collecting the same information from the web and essentially presenting out to you. So the only way, or one of the ways you can make sure that you are the top resource that they're gonna present, is by really doing a great job at optimizing. And the same SEO principles is applies to your traditional voice search. But again, your the whole thing about using 2, 3, 4 different keywords on a page is gone. So you have to look at not just your syntaxes, your submissions, your RSS feeds, but also how topical you are to a specific topic, right? And that's going to be really critical. The other thing we do see is something what this chart shows by Campaign Live. And what they did is they looked at some of the voice search queries, and that makes total sense. And that's what it is because we are so much advanced, we are getting so much better as a human race, that we are interacting with our devices. And because now we know how to interact with our technology tools, our devices that we use, that we are having a one-on-one conversation, right? And because of that, we are asking questions on to our devices, and those voice search queries have gotten longer, and an average is about 7, 8 words. And this is a very interesting trend, because back early in 2000s, when Google search, because Google search essentially taught most of the human race on how to search for information. Of course, there was Yahoo and all of those stuff, but people used to use Yahoo as a directory, but not as a search mechanism, right? So early on in the days, when we used to look at keywords and search data, early 2000s and stuff, we used to see that people used to type in a lot of 2 to 3 word queries. And those queries were very short. But as people got more advanced, more comfortable, they knew how to use this daily in their personal life, people started using long queries. So if you go right now, a typical query is about 4 to 6 words on Google, right? And we see the same trend on your voice search queries, because people have gotten more comfortable. So think about not just your keywords that you use on a on-page optimization, but the proximity, and what kind of topics you have, and those are going to be very critical. I think I have a ebook on my website somewhere, or an article on voice search optimization. So please go ahead and go and take that for additional resource. All right. So the next thing is ABM. So now ABM, what we do see is a lot of people have been using ABM for a while, and what that means is sales folks have been using ABM forever, as far as I could remember, because they knew there is no fancy monikers around it. It's just like inbound. Inbound has always been around. Then a company comes up around, and they create a name called inbound. But really, inbound is your SEO, your content, things like that, which marketers like us have been doing forever. But somebody just put a tag to it. Same as with ABM. It's nothing but a tag. Just to basically give it a different spin. And marketers and salespeople have been using forever. Like salespeople have been using. They just want to go into one account, and then they look for all the different decision makers or stakeholders within that company. And that's what ABM is. So the way ABM, of course, works great for B2B companies. But what we suggest is, you have those top of the funnel marketing, and then you have the targeted ABM campaigns, and you got to have both of them running at the same time, because you always have the big inflow of leads that you want, because a lead is a lead is a lead. You're going to nurture them over a period of time. So that ABM or account based marketing is not going to replace that. And some people think that it never replaces it. So ABM essentially is a starting point. Is take 10 accounts or 10 companies that you want to target. Look at some 10 stakeholders within that each of those companies that is an account, and essentially just prepare a list of who those people are, and can you do something to influence them. And if you take that, that's how you call expanding your contact list, which is stage 2 here. So the first thing is identifying, then the stage 2, and then let's say you are going after those 10 accounts, and then you have whittled out a list of about 10 contacts at each of those accounts. So you're looking at a list of about 10 times 10 is about 100 people. And now with those 100 people, you can engage them, and you can target them with your marketing activities at a very personalized and a customized level. So that's the beauty of it, right? And that's what a ABM does. So basically, it's more and more companies will be doing it, and of course, you need support like your marketer tools and whatnot, or automation tools that can help you further streamline this ABM campaigns. All right, so the point number 5 that I want to talk about is customer experience. This is, of course, has always been um, important, but what we see is we should, as marketers, put more of a focus on the customer experience. And what customer experience means, not just the pretty colors, the blue, the blacks, the green, the yellows, but what it means is having a unified customer experience across the board. So you can take your top level companies that you deal with, and what are the kind of experiences they see, whether be it on UI, your UX, your customer journey. Are you plotting out each of the steps of the customer? um, and seeing how you can improve it at each step of the way. Same with personalization, same with unified messaging. And that is the game, is essentially making sure that at each step of the way of your customer, you're optimizing the experience. Because if they see a one wrong graphic, or the word, or whatever that case may be, people don't get the right experience that you want to present. So customer experience is, of course, going to be at the forefront. Unified messaging is one of them, as well. How you talk to different people and different stuff, very critical. in our world, one of the marketing cloud races, you guys, some of you may know, is really heating up. So 2019, we'll see a lot of it, especially with the whole Salesforce. They want to control the cloud, and Adobe is already out there. They just purchased a big automation platform, Marketo. Then they have the analytics, right? They purchased. Omniture so many years back. They have the experience, they have the bid management, they have all the tools. And on top of that, they have their own creative suite. So there is a tremendous cloud race going on between these two companies on who's gonna control the cloud, and it's so profound, if you will, that if you do a search for marketing cloud right now, you will see these two companies hitting each other with these ads, and even here they're competing, and you can see. That Adobe trying to outpace Salesforce. Again, for obvious reasons. Um, Again, this is my book. Please go ahead and download it. All right. So the focus number 6, your should be, is not just email as a marketing tool, but essentially sending the right message at the right time to the right person. And that is very, very critical. So, things like your design of your flow chart of your automation, your drip campaigns will be very mainstream. Everyone will be using it. But you will see that in the B2C world, the personalization will be at the right time, at the right to the right person, and in a second. So if, for example, so many companies are doing it. So it will be more in the B2C world around transactional emails. So if I go to your site, I didn't buy something, and how fast and how great of a job you can do to bring me back. It's one example. And on the B2B side, it's all about nurturing. So what are the type of content you're showing to the customer and nurturing them in a more disciplined manner. So that's going to be something huge. And more mainstream, actually. We all have been doing it, but we'll see a lot more people adopting it. The tools are going to get better, and more mainstream as well. Attribution, this is huge. Of course, we have been working in attribution from almost 8 9 years, where multi-source attribution model really came about, and people started experimenting with it. And one of the biggest reasons was, you are doing so many different tactics, be it your social, be your retargeting, be your search, both organic but and paid. And basically, is everyone getting the credit? So those days of first touch and last touch attribution is gone. So if you're not that marketer, if you're still doing that, because as customers, even today, we search, we look on Yelp, we look on many different channels, the Instagram, before we make a decision. And that's called multi-source. So if we are going to many different channels or tactics and looking at our customer touch point, that means as a customer, they have many different touch points. So that means all those tactics should get equal, or some kind of attribution credit. Who gets the credit, right? So there are many different models. Again, that the linear time decay model is great, but yeah, many marketers will be applying this more in a more disciplined way than ever before. And which is great, because when everyone starts doing it in a more disciplined manner, where there is no silos but one single dashboard, and how do we move the business, then it's going to be great, because that's what brings the marketing skills of everyone up, right? And so yeah, attribution, we'll see more and more people applying it in a very disciplined manner. um, Focus number 8, that most people, I mean, everyone, so many people are doing it amazingly well. But this is a stat from test, and what they're doing is they obviously you see that the apps have been growing. That is the new websites. You do see that there are so many different ways that there's an app, and the trick is not having an app because all businesses need it because it's all about mobile now. So, but is essentially what are you gonna do after that, right? So there is huge competition, as you can see on the chart on the right. But yeah, so it's not just launching an app and then just let it go into the black hole of app store. But essentially, how good is your UI? We see a lot of companies still make that mistake where they are just replicating the same UI that they have on the website, your traditional web app, and they are taking that and putting it on a mobile app. And that is, of course, the one of the, what do you call it, the most um, common mistakes that you see, right? So having a great UI is very critical. User experience, user interface, are they able to do the task? Your landing pages are critical, not just on the app store, but how you're cross promoting it. And so that is another critical piece. The other thing we see is the virality of the app, and the whole influencing, like how you're gonna use the virality features into an app. And that means not just the gamification part of it, like you have the gaming matrix in it to create more engagement. But what kind of virality features are you going to use inside that app, so more and more people use that app and they share it with their friends and family, and have more downloads at the end of the day. And app store optimization again is very critical, and not a lot of people are doing, but I think there is a lot more that marketers can do. And of course the reviews and ratings, and how can you incentivize it. So there are a lot of different things that as app marketing you can do, and whatever that case may be. So I think some people are doing gloriously well, and but yeah, we see that everyone should be doing it. Um, we love podcasts, more and more people. Podcast is such a niche, so it is focus number 9. Again, it is replacing radio, as we all know, and the reason is it is more control in the hands of us. We have more control over what we listen, just like in all other areas of life, right? So what we do see is podcast is just that, because it gives the power of who we listen, because just like channel TV remote, we had that, and then with Hulu and all online streaming, that also went for a toss. So podcast is, that we have the, what we see is early adopters, obviously, who are listening to a lot of podcasts. And whenever early adopters adopt any new things, they consume a lot of it. And podcast is similar right now. What we do see is currently the podcast, and this was a chart by Recode, and what you see is a podcast spending is about 314 but a million, but is expected to touch 1 billion in 1.5 year. So we see this a huge market. So obviously, because very few people are doing it, this is a great time to get in, and not just to create your own podcast, but you can actually sponsor so many different podcasts because people have been creating it. So if you cannot create it, then advertise on podcast, be a guest speaker, whatever you want to do. But it's great for your niche audience if you have one, and you can influence folks in many different ways. What we also see is the ad formats on podcasts is not unlike traditional ones. So the best ads, and people are still experimenting on it, right? But if the best way would be if you can view it as part of the story, then it has a better resonance with the audience, as opposed to the ads you see on radio. where it's made, right? So it's again a lot of experimentation you will see in 2019, and again this is something to keep a close eye on. Yeah, and I love podcasts too. I've loved to love podcasts, not too long ago, and one weekend I was just listening to Simon's Content Kite podcast, and I liked it. And I thought, you know what, I could be a guest speaker. So I messaged him like, hey, I love your podcast. I was just listening all afternoon today. And he's like, yeah, thank you. Let me know if you want to be a guest speaker. I'm like, sure, I would love to. He then invited me, and in 2 weeks he put a podcast out, and which is win more deals by aligning sales and marketing. So that's the podcast. And then we also started our own podcast, and we are calling it Bobcast. And yeah, so we love podcasts. We have few episodes in. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get questions from all the marketers and see where we can help. So instead of a guest kind of a format, we are looking to get more questions so we can answer questions on that podcast. Again, you can find it on iTunes, um, Google Play, Spotify, whatnot. But you can also go to our website and look at the direct link as well. All right. So the last tip for the day is around social advertising. Now again, I'm not going to go into the whole social media growing your community thing, because it's a huge topic in itself. But So I'm going to focus on social advertising, because a lot of marketing dollars are getting allocated to the whole social advertising side of things. And people are still struggling, like why the conversions are still not the same as paid search, but for obvious reasons, because the whole conversion funnel is different, right? But we do see that smart placement, smart influencing tactics, and you see there's a whole influencer marketing industry that has been built up. Is gonna get more bang for the buck. How you position, how you place your product, your your product, your service, whatever that is. And we do see that some audience is better receptive of those tactics. The trick in social advertising or any kind of advertising is you do a couple of platforms before you blow it out to the other platform. So in this case, find out who your target audience is, and based on the target audience, what you really want to do is then nail down those. So for example, if you think your target audience is between the ages of 18 to 30, for example, then advertise a lot on Snap and Instagram, and combine those two things, and just by Snap and Instagram, you can reach a lot of people, a lot of conversion, influence a lot of people differently. We've done a lot of those campaigns. So those two are great channels. And of course, we do see that obviously that a lot of the more older crowd, if I may use that word, is more on Facebook still. And then there is a lot of adoption among that. But of course, we all know that the young people are living Facebook, or not even don't even have an account, because it's just not cool anymore. And that's just a cycle of life, right? What is new today is old tomorrow, and Facebook is no different. So yeah, in social advertising, find out who your audience is, work on one or two roll out your advertising on one platform, and then you expand after that, right? So that's the principles of it. And when in doubt, just do a simple business school um, chart, like what are the kind of channels you want to focus in, and which has the highest impact, and just allocate your time accordingly, whatever that channels could be, because every channel has its own sets of challenges, and you have to put resources against it. So yeah, just do a simple back of the envelope, back of the napkin. If you're working with a big agency or a small agency, you can still do it, because you can plot out your ROI, your numbers, your conversions around each of those plots, and see where you're really making big inroads, and yeah, but we think like for most B2B, LinkedIn is the tool, and we do see that LinkedIn it works really great for B2B folks. So again, that's where most of the people are making their money is on LinkedIn. Um, but again, as most Peter Drucker would say, marketing and innovation produce results. All the rest are costs. So yeah, 2019 is that time where you should be trying new things. You should be innovating and using a lot of things in marketing, and basically coming up with new tactics. Because again, that is the only way you're gonna create a lot of customers, and customers who's for life, and that's what marketing does. Marketing, unless sales cold call is not with marketing, you can nurture people over a period of time. With sales cold call, you basically call them. If they don't like it, you hang up, if you get a chance to talk to them. So that's the difference. But thank you, keep in touch, and you can email me directly if any questions. I love to help, and love to help. If you have any questions, happy to do that as well. But yeah, I have a lot of free resources on my website at baptripathi.com, and yeah, please email. So that's what I have right now for formal presentation. So let me see if I have more some questions or something that people have. But yeah, happy to take in your questions. I and talk more about those questions as well. All right. So any questions? Anybody? Uh, is there a PowerPoint? Yes. Yeah. Just as a housekeeping, essentially, I will be sending all the slides in an email. So stay tuned. Okay. All right. So who wants to go in with any questions? I do see that there is a question. Uh, yeah, around martech software, that if I have a preferred martech, which is marketing technology software. Well, it's different because there are so many things you could do, right? So you have all these different areas. So you have customer success, you have your paid search, you have your automation. So every area can be optimized, and basically can be automated. And so that's what software does, is it helps you automate things. So depending on what your need is, I can actually recommend it, but it's not like a one size fits all kind of a thing that I could recommend. But since you're asking that question, for example, for automation, we use Marketo. And we think it's a great tool for mid-size and even smaller companies, because there's a lot of things you can do in a non-linear format. We also see that a lot of things have been improved from the last 2-3 years, and with Adobe now having Marketo, I think they're going to do a great job at it as well, and add some more innovations on top of it. So for example, that's for automation side. So depending what your needs are, you can essentially go for what part of your business you want to automate. So that's the whole question that I would ask you. All right, what is the other channel? What is your experience with paid podcasts? Yeah, paid podcasts, as I mentioned, um, is how you view your ads. Because with podcasts, everyone has the control in their hands, right? So what that means is, if you played a ad on a traditional radio, somebody can sure skip it, but they will watch it because they're driving or whatnot. On a podcast, you can just use that forward button, and you can just go forward the ad. So your ad should be part of the story. So we have seen that when it's part of the story and placed it in a great way, and there is a call to action after the ad, those ads have run well for us. and that could be anything like, hey, I'm doing this webinar, but if, for example, but if you want a bigger course or whatever for free, go to my website, and then people are gonna go. So you gotta have those breadcrumbs, if you will, to make it work really well. So be creative. Don't just create an ad, but view a story inside that, and that's how you're gonna find the type of topics that you want to advertise on. A good example is Reid Hoffman's Masters of Scale podcast. They view the story of the advertiser as part of it. So, it creates a curiosity. So you're not gonna just forward it or things like that. You want to listen it too, because there's information, innovative ways to basically um, to listen, so you learn more as well, because that's what it is. So I think viewing the story has worked well. So yeah, happy to help. Email me more at bob@bobtripathi.com, and I'm happy to essentially point you in the right direction. um, One of the questions I see is, what role you think SEO will play in the future, that is beyond 2019? Will it still be relevant? It's a good question. I get asked this question all the time. Will SEO still be relevant? Well, it will be relevant as long as Google is around, right? So think about it that way. So if Google is around, it's going to be relevant in Google in its present form. I mean, but what we do see is the emphasis have changed over time. So, a classic SEO model is essentially you make great pages, great content, so the search bot will come and crawl. Once they crawl, what happens after that is they index you. After they index, what happens? They rank you. After ranking, what happens? You get more traffic. After traffic, hopefully you get more conversion. So that's a linear funnel. And so, back in the day, we had a lot of emphasis on ranking. So that emphasis have changed because of personalized search and things like that. But those are good indication. So SEO is still around. We do see that you can build your real business on SEO, but you'll have to diversify yourself, meaning not just focus on one tactic, obviously, but also think about voice search that we was talking about. So yes, it's gonna be relevant, but the emphasis changes, right? So focus more on creating good content, good experience that we talked about earlier, personalized content, and then you can see optimizing around it. And SEO, yes, still will still be relevant in 2019. And yeah, spend some time on SEO as well, just like you would with many other tactics, especially when you compare SEO with paid search, right? So uh, yeah, another on the one of the questions, let me see. Oh, there's a bunch of questions. So hopefully, yeah, I can get to your questions. What about video marketing in 2019? Yeah, I mean, sorry I didn't add that, but obviously there are so many tactics out here. But yeah, video marketing is been around, like, and it is gonna be so critical. I didn't put it in the presentation, but obviously YouTube is huge, and the advertising on YouTube is huge, and sometimes video basically plays a great role. So I'm using video right now, and hopefully you see me well, and minus the lighting and stuff like that. But there is a connection that you make when you basically watch somebody on a video, and if you watch them over and over again, then you do form a connection with them. And video is a very critical part of it. As we move into the 5G world, we will see that the whole broadband and buffering and all that is going to be a thing of the past. And because it's going to be a thing of the past, what we do see is, yes, video is gonna be a huge part, or should be a huge part of your digital strategy, no doubt about that. So yeah, happy to help. I've done so many videos and love doing videos, so that would be great. um all right, I'm gonna skip the um how to price ads when you have a community or in podcast. Yeah, it's a tricky, right? Like, I believe what you're trying to say, Daniel, is you are saying that how to price ads, like you're running a podcast. That's what I understand, and you're trying to sell the video units in it. Probably that's what I'm guessing. Yeah, we can look at, yeah, you can email me, we can talk offline, but you can look at what competitors are doing. You can even do the old school way of how much conversions you're doing. What are the channels you're fighting against, right? So you're fighting against Google. Google AdWords as an example. So you can take that as a benchmark, right? Because when somebody's listening to you, how many people are actively listening to you? So you should have all those metrics first before you price your account. But yeah, think about an active, the old model of cost per thousand impressions, which was in a display, where it does not work. So there are many different models people are following to price their ads, if that's what you're asking. So yeah, happy to help and look more into it. There is one in customer experience. Should you also bet on personalization on the support agents and empower your team to talk proactively with their public profile? They should hide in their official accounts. Yeah, no, no, no. I think transparency is very critical. I think that's what you're asking. So, for example, if somebody's coming on your site or they're calling you on the phone or what have you, are you saying agent 25 or agent number 39, right? I think that's what you're asking. No, I think the experience starts with everyone, right? Like, I was chatting the other day on the Apple support, and this guy was trying to, his name, his photo, everything was there. I mean, it was his picture, I believe. And many companies are doing it, and if you're not comfortable with the picture, I mean, if you can put a real picture and a real name and talk to them and be very transparent and all of that, it brings a whole human level. Because the fact has become that we have been tired of going to this 1-800 number, the random number, who have no interest in your life, and and you're trying to tell them what your problem is, and you expect them to solve it, and that right itself is so cold. So anything you can do to better that experience, and so many people are doing it in a great way, then go for it. I think that's what you're trying to say. So yeah, don't hide, be transparent, right? I mean, it's a digital, so that's what you want to do. I think that's all. One last question I have is, when is the right time to invest in digital marketing if you are a startup? And I think my answer to that essentially is, start early. Many startups, what we have seen is, they first go out and hire a VP of sales or director of sales, and they think they're magically gonna hunt and get all the people. But actually, it's not the right way. You may want to invest, if you're a startup, a B2B startup, a lot of into demand gen tactics, because only if you have leads, then your VP or your director of sales have things to work on, right? So invest very early. So my bet is before you even hire a director or VP of sales, hire your marketing person, so your marketing work gets started early. Because once you have the leads, you have built a presence, go back to the first slide that I said, then you can actually market it right. Same goes with enterprise. If in enterprise, the whole big question is, what channels or what tactics can we invest wisely? Again, look at your ROI, which ones have given you better ROI. Because in the enterprise world, you're basically working against the new demand, as well as optimizing your spend. So again, digital plays a huge role in it. So get digital early in the mix. So that would be my suggestion to you. But guys, I think I'm running out of time. I do see some other questions as well, and um, I think I'll answer one last question. We have 2 minutes, and hopefully I'll get this. I think this last question is: should you hire a marketer or a growth marketer in 2019? Yeah, obviously you should, right? And I'm gonna say that obviously because you should hire a marketer, and it's not just about hiring, but it's basically you should invest it rightly. Sometimes what we have seen is when people work with us, right? We do see that marketing, all the tactics that we talked about today, cannot be done by one person. So what you need is you need a team of about 6 to 8 people to get all the tactics done, and then you can scale and then you can grow. And what we have seen is sometimes people work with a agency or a marketing services company like us, and then once the program is built up to a certain level, then they hire somebody in house. That's the one way we have seen people do it. The other way we have seen people do it is where we become their extended marketing arm, so they don't want to hire someone, and they just want to get an agency and a services company, and they do all the work. So there are many different models to work around. But again, in a smaller environment, you're better off taking your work and basically let the marketing services, the experts who do that over and over again, manage the whole thing, so you can scale fast. In a bigger environment, in an enterprise company, what we see is you need a lot of new ideas, and sometimes it being in your ivory tower world, you are close to it, so you need the outside help essentially, to bring in new ideas, to bring in new thoughts, and essentially optimize your current marketing spend. So, and again, you need some people in the even if you're in an enterprise, inside working and managing those marketing projects. But because if you want to scale and the work of your scale so much, you still need to work with an outside agencies or services company. And that's just the fact of life, because when you work with contractors and an agencies or services company, you essentially can get done things done very fast and very quickly. And speed is what it's all about. So that would be my answer. But thank you so much, guys, for joining. Again, if any questions, please feel free to email me at bob@bobtripathi.com. And again, thank you for joining, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.